What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and for the past week plus, I have been putting off making a video about a Star Wars rumor that literally everyone is talking about. That is the rumor that Lucasfilm has a secret plan to quote-unquote save Star Wars by retconning the sequel trilogy, decanonizing episodes 7, 8, and 9. Today, I am going to talk about that. I had so many requests, DMs, tags on Twitter to give my opinion. Finally, I'm going to put out what I think about this rumor and why I think that it is not going to happen. Let's get into it right here. Now, the new rumor details how Lucasfilm plans to save Star Wars. This does come from Bounty in the Comics, but as most of you probably know, all of this information comes from Overlord DVD himself, Doomcock. Hail Lord Doomcock. He put out 2 videos detailing the ways in which Lucasfilm plans to retcon the sequel trilogy, specifically using the world between worlds introduced in Star Wars Rebels. And before we go any further, I do want to say that Doomcock makes it very clear in these videos that these are rumors. These are just rumblings that he is hearing, and even that he has got contradictory information, which we will talk about later, and why I think along with Ichibaka, that there may be some malice behind those contradictory sources that Doomcock has received. So he made both these videos. We're going to take a look at a few articles that kind of break it down and condense it so we can talk about it. And you see right here, new rumor details how Lucasfilm plans to save Star Wars. The rumor comes from YouTuber Doomcock, who explains, I'm receiving a massive amount of information, and unfortunately some of it is contradictory. It is my belief that the contradictions are the result of deliberate disinformation, trying in essence to cast a fog of war over what's happening in Lucasfilm, or it's designed to counter misinformation from some opposing faction. So right there he talks about how take it with a grain of salt. Take all this as unsubstantiated and with a grain of salt. Doomcock starts here. One of the new insiders commented that Lucasfilm can hit the reset button and fix everything. At this point, my source asked, what reset button? And the insider responded again, the veil, which finally led my source to ask, what is the veil? The insider replied, the veil of the Force. Haven't you seen Star Wars Rebels? And I will also say that the idea that someone hasn't seen Rebels that works at Lucasfilm isn't necessarily unbelievable. There's been stories of people that work at Lucasfilm that don't know what the Clone Wars is. So I can understand that being the case. Now, the world between worlds is a point that Ezra Bridger is able to access. He's essentially able to travel back in the past, glimpse things in the future. Dave Filoni introduced time travel into Star Wars, which that is a big mistake, in my opinion, something like this in Star Wars. But that is for a different video. We're talking about these rumors. On the official Star Wars website, they explain a world between worlds is open through the painting of the Mortis gods found in the exterior of the Jedi Temple on Lothal. This can be seen in Star Wars Rebels below. This insider detailed to Doomcock that the veil could be used to make the entire Disney sequel trilogy an alternate timeline. Doomcock says, during another encounter with another insider, this insider revealed the secret plan to save Star Wars. He or she alleged that the Veil of the Force was going to be used to make the entire sequel trilogy an alternate timeline and reclassify the sequels as Star Wars Legends. Now, we need to stop there and speak, because Star Wars Legends, as many of you who watch my channel know, is the old Star Wars expanded universe. The canon that included books, comic books, video games, all of those things outside of the original 6 movies that were produced between 1977 and 2014, when Disney decided to declare all of that had been considered canon, non-canon, that they were going their separate way with only the movies and the Clone Wars TV series as official Disney canon. This makes 0 sense. And it's one of the things I've talked about when people say, oh, I wish they'd bring this Legends character back, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't make any sense. Everything that is currently in Legends right now is one cohesive timeline, despite what some idiots might try to tell you. It is one cohesive timeline. Are there a few things that contradict over 30 years of storytelling? Yes, there absolutely is. I can tell you there's more things that contradict just the original 6 movies in the 3 Disney canon, or in the 3 sequel trilogy movies that we've gotten, than there were in the entire fucking Star Wars expanded universe. So they can just shut the hell up. It makes no sense, because the sequel trilogies do not fit into Legends. Maybe this is a miscommunication. Maybe it's a misunderstanding from the source. This makes literally 0 sense for it to be reclassified as Star Wars Legends. I'm informed this insider revealed that yes, this plan is already in motion. The sequel trilogy will end up being their own timeline and eliminated from canon in that way. But there is a faction that hates this idea and is fighting it every step of the way. Kathleen Kennedy knows about this plan and is doing everything she can to stop it. So this goes back to the idea that there are factions within Lucasfilm. And I do believe there are factions. There are George Lucas loyalists and there are Kathleen Kennedy loyalists within Lucasfilm. We know this to be the case. But with this rumor, there's a couple reasons that I find it so difficult to believe. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen, because Disney has already shown that they are willing to wipe away an entire canon in sake of going forward to the future. That's what they did with the Star Wars Expanded Universe. That's how they disenfranchised so many fans by doing that in 2014. But you have to ask yourself, what would be the benefit of them doing this? Now, people that are subscribed to my channel and don't like Disney Star Wars, a lot of people in the fandom menace that don't like Disney Star Wars, of course, would be all on board with this. That gung-ho, this seems too good to be true, right? But there's a reason for that, I think. I think this is intentionally put out there in order to get people to talk about it, either to distract from something else or to possibly discredit people. Because again, if it feels too good to be true, sometimes that is the case. If I'm Disney, what good would this do me? Now, it would appease those fans like us that hated The Last Jedi, that hated The Rise of Skywalker, that hate what Disney has done. It would be a huge victory to the fans that were saying that these are huge mistakes. But you have to understand that there are people that like the sequel trilogy. I know some people don't like to hear that, but it's very true. What would you be doing to those fans? You would be disenfranchising them in the same way that we feel disenfranchised now. I'm of the opinion that there's kind of three groups of people. There are those that really enjoy the new Disney canon. There are people, normies, that just are kind of in between, whatever. And then there are people, I would consider myself in this group, that despise everything that Disney has done with Star Wars. To decanonize everything that's been done and say, the only reason you would do that is if you were going to make them again. So, to decanonize everything and say, yeah, sorry guys, I know you like that, but go F yourselves. That's done. No longer canon. We're redoing this. We would be celebrating on this side, but what would the fans of the sequel trilogy and the people in the middle be saying? The only reason to do this would be if you were going to remake the sequel trilogy. There's no reason to do it otherwise. So if you were going to remake this sequel trilogy, would you do it right now? With Carrie Fisher dead, unfortunately. With Han Solo, well, Harrison Ford. Do you really think you could convince Harrison Ford to come back for anything other than a little cameo? He did Force Awakens because he was told he would be killed off. He got a crap ton of money to do it, and he got a crap ton of money to roll out of bed unshaven to film the part in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't think you bring him back. Mark Hamill, I do think that if they came to Mark and said, hey, we feel like we really did a disservice to Luke and to your character, give us a chance to make it right, I do feel like Mark Hamill would be on board. But are people going to go out and, like I said, again, we would, of course we would, but would the normies go out and say, episode 7, I just paid for this. I just paid for this thing. That doesn't make any sense. Now, we have something similar going on with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm a huge fan of Zack Snyder and his work in the DCEU. But DC is a different story. DC has had a multiverse for a very, very long time. People are very used to the multiverse in DC. That would be a crazy thing for Star Wars to go ahead and just pull the rug out from under everyone. Now, Doomcock does go on to further explain how it will happen and kind of that it was a little bit hidden in plain sight. We're going to talk about this. Again, it will be explained that Emperor Palpatine had a room on the second Death Star called the Room of Mirrors. The mirrors were created by the Emperor prior to the Death Star through the dark side using Sith rituals. These mirrors linked the Veil of the Force, served many purposes. Using them, Palpatine could manipulate the Force in many ways to further his aims. Now, it is saying that Palpatine survived the destruction of the second Death Star by going or opening a portal to the Veil of the Force, and he was very injured, and that's why he was injured. Of course, whoever's telling him that has conveniently forgotten about what the canon description of what happened to Palpatine was, and that is the fact that he transferred his consciousness and he was thrust into the body of a clone, right? So that doesn't even line up with their own canon in Rise of Skywalker. That's one of the many reasons why I just don't think that this is real. And then the source goes on to describe the little Rey scene we got in the Room of Mirrors. That's saying that's what this Room of Mirrors was. Of course, I think most people say they feel like it's just a vision, very similar to one that Luke had on Dagobah, of, fighting Darth Vader. When he cut off the mask, it's actually Luke. It seemed like that's exactly what they were doing. But the source says that is the Room of Mirrors, that she was actually glimpsing an alternate reality. Of course, she actually fought it. She wasn't just looking into a mirror. And after she falls out of the room, that Dark Rey is not there anymore. So that doesn't really line up in my mind. However, I wanted to go over here. Ichibaka, Disney Star Wars is dumb and done. Hail Ichibaka. He does some great work over there. Some really solid work and gets stuff up really fast. He put out an interesting perspective in what I think may be the case. Now, he talks about how there's actually one Star Wars author, Trisha Barr, who is a freaking nut job, who thinks that this may be the case as well. I see a rumor of a reboot is circulating again. It's been going on for a couple months, and then she puts out basically her opinion that she thinks that it would be pretty cool if they did a reboot, that it would work. Doing the multiverse in Star Wars could work. That's what she is saying. And he also points out Around the Galaxy podcast, which has just been spamming about this rumor, being really upset, extremely upset that Doomcock is reporting on rumors. Yeah, heaven forbid. What would YouTube be like if you could only talk about things that are 100% verifiably factual? Wouldn't be a whole lot of stuff on this website, would there? But yeah, he's very butthurt for some reason. This is also the little bitch who disinvited my friend Drunk 3PO. So Around the Galaxy podcast, go fuck yourself. You suck. Anyway, moving on. This is something that I think could be interesting because Ichibaka points to here where there was deliberate disinformation being sent out to people, basically just to discredit them. Because during the Kelly Marie Tran incident, Instagram investigation incident, a thread at MillenniumFalcon.com was discovered with screen caps of a private discussion forum where Jason Ward and Manabyte discussed sending false tips to rival websites in an effort to discredit them, even sending them from multiple different email accounts, just as Doomcock described. And Ichibaka goes on to show that he got a very specific email at the same time that Doomcock was getting some of these. Not only him, but Stephen Walton. It says he has a person claiming to have information that reminds me of what was said in this video, right? So there's a couple people that are getting these reports. Could this be a deliberate disinformation or misinformation, project? I personally kind of lean towards that because I just don't see a reason for Disney to do this. I think that Disney is going to continue to do what they're doing right now, and that is ignoring the sequel trilogy. They know how polarizing it was to people. Polarizing means that some people loved it and some people hated it. Don't forget that. We all hated it. Make that clear. Most of the people that I interact with on YouTube, our kind of circle, most of us hate it. There's some people that did like it, and if you like the Disney trilogy, I thank you for subscribing to the channel. I'm glad you're here. But there are definitely people that like this. They would be disenfranchising them in the same way that they've disenfranchised us. I think what Disney's plan moving forward is to ignore anything in the sequel trilogy. That's why they're going back to the quote-unquote High Republic. That's why they're focusing on movies set in between the originals and the prequels, because that's what can get most fans still back on board to Star Wars, ignoring the divisive things that they have done before. Could I see a time where they decide to say, yeah, we're going to retcon this and do something? I could see that possibly, but I don't see it for a long way. Definitely it would have to be after Kathleen Kennedy is gone for sure. And even then, I think a little more time would have to go by before they decide to retcon those movies that they just made. That would be them admitting a huge mistake, not something that I necessarily see Disney doing. Now, I know this is a lot of rambling, a little longer than some of my videos, but I did want to talk about it. Again, it's a pipe dream, right? The fact that they could decanonize all this stuff that happens, but there's too many things about it that don't make any sense. We know that Disney, Star Wars, and Lucasfilm, they do nonsensical things often, but I just have a hard time buying it. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.